The night it happened was cold, sharp, the kind of evening where the air itself feels heavy and rushed, like the city is exhaling faster than you can keep up with. I had just left the grocery store, juggling 2 paper bags, my phone tucked between my shoulder and my ear as I spoke quickly to a coworker about deadlines and overtime. My head was buzzing with work, with bills, with everything except the moment in front of me. And that's when it slipped my wallet, fat with $280 cash inside. My ID, my bus card, receipts, things that were more than paper, things that tethered me to stability. It hit the pavement with a muted slap and slid a few feet before stopping. Near the gutter, I didn't notice. My mind was elsewhere, my hands clumsy, my life scattered. By the time I realized what I had lost, I was already blocks away. My stomach dropped, my palms went damp, and panic flooded me in a rush so strong it felt like someone had knocked the wind out of my chest. That money wasn't just numbers, it was my rent for the week, my security, my small hold on dignity. I turned and ran back, my footsteps echoing against concrete, already convinced it was gone. And then, under the glow of a broken lamppost, I saw him, a man hunched low to the ground, wrapped in coats that weren't whole coats at all, but stitched together scraps of fabric and memory. His beard was untrimmed, his shoes slid open at the seams, each step in life leaving him more exposed than. The last, he had my wallet. My chest constricted. He could have taken off with it. It could have melted into the shadows, and I'd never see it again. But he didn't. He just sat there, one hand on top of it, like a soldier guarding a relic. His eyes, when they rose to meet mine, weren't greedy. They weren't even curious. They were sharp and watchful, as though he was holding on to something far greater than leather and cash. I slowed, unsure, afraid to shatter this fragile moment. Why hadn't he run? Why hadn't he claimed it? The truth was clear when I looked. Around, people had passed him, footprints pressed into the damp sidewalk told the story. Some must have seen the wallet lying there, but they had turned away. A man in a suit gave him a wide berth, lips curled in disdain. A woman whispered the word junkie to her friend as though he couldn't hear, as though he wasn't human. Others quickened their pace, unwilling to approach, but he hadn't moved. Through the cold, through the judgment, he stayed, crouched. Low, one hand pressed to my lifeline as though he had sworn an oath to protect it. "Didn't want no one to take it," said softly as I neared. His voice rasped like stone against stone, cracked from nights of silence. He lifted the wallet with both hands, careful, reverent, as though it were glass. In that instant, he was not a beggar, not an outcast. He was a guardian. My throat tightened. As I reached for it, fingers trembling, inside, every dollar was still there, not a single bill missing. Every receipt tucked neatly, every card untouched. I asked him why. Why didn't he take it? He could have eaten for days, could have bought warmth. His eyes dropped to the sidewalk, and for a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke again, his words low but steady. "Hunger passes. But losing your name, your trust that stays forever." It was then I noticed his hands. Guard. Trembling, a tattoo half faded across his knuckles. These weren't the hands of a man who had always been on the street. They belonged to someone who once worked, once carried weight, once built things, someone who had lost it all. "I know what it's like," he added quietly, "to lose everything." And the silence that followed was heavier than the city's noise around us. I stood there, staring at him, realizing that this man who had nothing had just chosen honor over survival. He could have taken, but instead he had given. That night I couldn't leave him as he was. I asked his name. He hesitated, then said it quietly, almost like a confession. "Earl." Bought him hot soup from the diner across the street. Thick. Bread and a pair of gloves that looked too new against his weathered coat. But it didn't stop there. I shared what had happened online, thinking maybe a few friends would read it. Instead, it spread like fire. People messaged asking how to help. Blankets were donated. Jackets arrived. A cafe owner reached out offering him part-time work, washing dishes. Someone else paid for a haircut, a shave. Within weeks, the man people once crossed the street to avoid became someone they greeted, someone they nodded to, someone they saw. Months later, Earl stood taller. His voice carried pride. He had shoes that fit, a small rented room, and something even more valuable, belonging. He told me once, eyes steady, "That night I gave back your money. But what you gave me back was my place in this world." And I believed him, because sometimes all it takes is one act of honesty. One refusal to let the world harden your heart, to spark a chain of kindness that keeps growing. Earl had guarded my wallet, but what he really returned to me and to himself was proof that goodness survives even in the hardest places. The last time I saw him, he pressed a folded scrap of paper into my hand. It was torn from an old diary, edges worn soft. In shaky handwriting were the words, "Don't let the world harden your heart." I still carry it with me. A reminder that kindness doesn't just appear in polished halls or bright homes. It glows even in the shadows, waiting for someone to notice. And next week, we'll hear about the forgotten child whose song silenced an entire city.